Don't go in there. Look what happened to me.
Are you ready to enter a place of weirdness, of madness, a realm where logic doesn't exist, and the only thing you can say is that anything goes? Yes, welcome my friends to the Museum of Anything Goes. Published in 1995, the Museum of Anything Goes is arguably the king of weird 90s multimedia experiences. Originally developed by Michael Markowski and Maxwell S. Robinson under the company name Wayzata Technology. That sounds a little bit like a Blade Runner reference. This interactive showcase for PC and Mac is truly a relic of the mid-90s, an era where multimedia reigned supreme. The era of multimedia is a short-lived period, mostly built around Windows 3.1 and Windows 95, when developers were releasing every product that they could think of, as long as it was on a CD. Of course, this was also spearheaded by the success of Myst, released in 1993, and one of the first big games to come out on CD-Rom, which caused, of course, everybody to go out and buy a new, expensive CD-Rom driver for their PCs. But now suddenly imagine you're a developer in 1995 and you're just gone from floppy disks, I don't have a floppy disk, to a CD. So that's like 1 megabyte and something of space on a floppy disk to 650 megabytes or even more on a CD-ROM. So the first question you ask yourself is, what do I do with all this space?
This is the art of entertainment. Remote controlled on digitizing landscapes. Slam the glove and dive into the screen. Free your mind, the rest will follow. Build a world which conflicts all your needs. This is the art of entertainment. This is the art of entertainment.
So while short, this period brought us a whole incredible number of products, from classic encyclopedia or learn about the human body to more, shall we say, dubious products such as Grossology and Mind Gym.
So this is supposed to be a tool for middle managers to, think outside the box. It won a BAFTA for comedy. This writing here. I haven't laughed once. I'm actually very irritated and I'm very tired.
So indeed, there was a lot of stuff, a lot of what we would today refer to as shovelware, probably, for the most part. But still, in this selection of stuff, the Museum of Anything Goes stands alone. Why, you ask? The Museum of Anything Goes feels like walking a dusty CG corridors of a weird artist abandoned house, someone who perhaps went missing years ago in a mysterious car accident or something. It's a selection of videos, audio, images, and might we say relics from Michael and Maxwell's lives, the creators. For example, we get to experience a series of videos, or rather still images with audio, from when Markowski was teaching at a school in Chicago, and he uses this kind of interviews and sort of multimedia experience to denounce the lack of funding and inadequate teaching tools that he had at the time. One might ask, why is this in the museum? What does it have to do with all the other stuff that isn't really about social commentary or anything like that? Well, the better question is, why shouldn't it be in the museum?
And why do you think you are in school?
To get an education.
And you think you're getting an education?
No?
Again, I feel the best description for this is the museum is a very personal collection of two Chicagoans, I don't even think I'm pronouncing that correctly, but you know what I mean, people who lived in Chicago from around 1993 and 1994. It feels a little bit like someone saved a a part of the web, or perhaps only, the weirdest parts of the web, on a CD and sort of made it interactive, or slightly interactive, I guess. So the interesting thing about the two authors of the museum is that they both had an MFA in fine arts. So they were students of arts, they were artists themselves, and this really shows in the product, because this is just like visiting a museum of contemporary art today, but definitely not in 1994. And it is also kind of fascinating in that this idea of visiting a museum in your own home, so like having a sort of virtual reality, if we want to call it that, experience of visiting the Louvre at home or the Musei Vaticani, didn't really take off. I mean, sure, there were of course CDs that allowed you to do that, and a lot of other CDs that featured photographs and other things of the sort, but the idea never really worked. It never really became a big thing. It was always like a small thing and never really went anywhere. The museum really blends the line between games, art, and multimedia in a way that, sure, it had probably been done before, but it was one of the first products of its kind to feel this interesting and this new, even all those years later. Now, I called the Museum of Anything Goes an adventure, and yes, I might have been wrong, but I also called it a game. And is it fair to call the Museum of Anything Goes a game? Well, it's not wrong, at least not 100%. There are actual games in this CD. For example, feed the fish by selecting the right colored piece of paper.
Tasty.
Or put the puzzle piece together to see the picture.
Tasty.
Or rather interactive basic multimedia experiences like fill the screen with random flowers, which almost remind me of Magic Theater, which came out around the same time.
Tasty.
There's even a sort of Densha de Go prototype where you can actually drive a Chicago metro train. And yeah, it's basically just pressing play and stop on a video on a loop of a Chicago train going around and around.
Look, I can't even see where I am going.
It's a sort of very early prototype, and it works. So yes, I think it's fair to call Museum of Anything Goes a game. Again, I think a more accurate description is really that of a random collection of multimedia files that sometimes can be interacted with. But that's not all. This experience feels very eerie, even perhaps we might say scary at times. For example, at one point we get to experience a funeral, and we even get blamed for the death of this person. We get to see hands coming out of the ground with graves in the background, and to top it all off, a pig carcass being put in an incinerator, which, the game wants the player to think it's actually a human body, but it's clearly not. But that's not all. There are a lot of weird sounds, voices, skeletons. Why is it so eerie and strange? And again, the answer is the same. Why shouldn't it be? There was really no intended target audience for this. I don't think anybody was supposed to see the Museum of Anything Goes or play it or, interact with it and think, oh no, this isn't made for me. Why are they selling this?
Don't you touch me.
No, nobody cared. The early days of multimedia gave rise to a whole series of products that today can be befuddling, strange, perhaps even dangerous for your mental health. For example, experiences such as Mind Gym, which we might talk about in another video. I think they are perfect as they are. They are really the symptoms of an era of people discovering this new medium, the CD, the multimedia, and trying stuff out, just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. There were no rules, no real consequence, there was no big company behind the Museum of Anything Goes, so nobody would be ruined by this. From the credits, Michael and Maxwell say they worked on it for like a year until they almost went out of their minds, and then they just published it. So, no rules, no consequences, no intended audience, no market. Did this thing sell any copies? Who knows? We don't know.
Don't touch me.
Take a chance with random access.
A trip to the museum takes about an hour, depending how far you're willing to experiment with some of the interactive games. You know, some of them might be fun for like a couple minutes, some will be boring after like 30 seconds. For all intents and purposes, this really feels like visiting a sort of forgotten part of the internet on a CD. Even though, you know, back in '94 there was really no internet to speak of, except especially not this kind of internet with videos. Videos on the internet in '94? What are you, crazy? This is a selection of the lives of two people, filtered through their taste in the weird, the strange, and the eerie. And there's mood swings all over the place. Mood swings is the name of the game here, rather than Museum of Anything Goes. There's a selection of letters from dead people. Then we go from that to a trip to the snow. There's people on the beach having fun and animated figures dancing to nothing in particular. Can we say anything goes? More than 30 years after its release, the Museum of Anything Goes feels like a relic of the past, but in all the good ways. Visitors can really feel like they're entering the modern equivalent of an Egyptian tomb, even though, you know, it hasn't been 2000 years, it has been 30. Despite the relatively young age, this visit still feels fascinating, even slightly dangerous perhaps, and irresistible, all at the same time. You don't need to fly to far-off lands and get your shots or anything strange like that before heading into this particular tomb. You just need to set up a virtual machine perhaps. There's even packages that will allow you to just play Museum of Anything Goes on a modern PC without much of a hassle, so yeah, it's very easy to visit the museum today. You may ask yourself, what is that beautiful museum? No, sorry, I got off track. You may ask yourself, is the Museum of Anything Goes for me? Well, the answer is no. This was made for nobody. Again, no target audience. This wasn't made even to be sold, perhaps. I'm not even sure. This was made by two people. It was made by themselves, for themselves. And it's, by all intents and purposes, an expression of who they were at that particular moment in time, what they were interested in, their experiences in life, and what led them to that point in time, to 1994, 1995. At the dawn of the age of the multimedia, the Museum of Anything Goes really is the sort of quintessential expression of the self. It's an experience that works on different levels. Perhaps it's an art piece. Are game art? Museum of Anything Goes definitely is art. But is it a game? No, it's an expression of the self. Or maybe it's a sort of gravestone. A headstone for lost media. All the media that was found and saved on a CD and somehow, by a miracle, got to us in the present or whenever you're watching this video. And we're still able to visit it and play it. The internet used to be a place where things live forever. We know now that is not true, it's BS. But in the Museum of Anything Goes, things live forever. Because this little fossil, it's still there in its glass case. Perhaps you will have to dig under this huge skyscraper to get to it, but you will find that everything is intact. It's as beautiful, as fascinating as back when it was released. But of course, not everybody liked multimedia. In fact, not everybody liked Museum of Anything Goes either. Take it from this Wire magazine review from January 1996 that says, Wayzata Technology expects consumers to pay good money for a collection of unrelated digital illustrations, home video art projects, synthesizer doodles, and unfunny Terry Gilliam wannabe animations. It doesn't make sense, but hey, it doesn't have to, it's multimedia! If you took 100 monkeys, gave them all camcorders, copies of Micromedia Director, and a year at art school, this would be the result. I think there's no better review for Museum of Anything Goes than this. I have no problem with this review whatsoever. So why do I think the Museum of Anything Goes is important all these years later? Well, because there isn't really anything like it. It's like an epitaph of a forgotten time before the internet, where you couldn't really have or get a collection of images, of videos, of files that you could peruse whenever you wanted. And since we know now that there's no such thing as safe archiving, or definitely not on the internet, the fact that we can still visit the Museum of Anything Goes is kind of a beautiful thought. It's like it's still there. Whenever you want it, the tickets are just available whenever you feel like giving a little chance to this forgotten 1994 collection of stuff. So, yeah, take a chance. You might enjoy.
I'm stuck inside my skin. Let me out. Let me out. I'm stuck inside my skin. Let me out. I'm stuck inside my skin. Let me out. Let me out. I'm stuck inside my skin. Let me out.